Hi friends, welcome back to another daily connection video from QFMC. I've got a question for you. Is God's voice the loudest voice that you're listening to? If the answer is no, there might be a problem. You see, in our culture today, everybody wants to be heard. Everybody has something to say. There's not enough listening happening. But the question there is what everyone has to say, does it have value to it? Does it add value to our life? You know, one of the voices that I have given my ear to during this time and just generally speaking is Pastor Mark Batterson. He's an author and he pastors, I think it's called the National Community Church in Washington, D.C. It's a multi-site church. Anyways, he did a Bible study on the YouVersion app called The Whisper of God. And there were some things in that just really struck a chord with me. And I wanted to take the time to share those with you. So he says, if you aren't willing to listen to everything God has to say, you eventually won't hear anything he has to say. That hit me like a ton of bricks. Again, this Mark Batterson, he says, if you aren't willing to listen to everything God has to say, you eventually won't hear anything he has to say. There are so many things that Satan is using to distract us and to deafen us from God's voice, whether it be social media, whether it be racism, politics, the COVID, the virus, conspiracy theories, rather we have had our civil rights taken away. There are so many things that we are giving our ear to. But are we giving our ear to the voice of God? See, He's the one who has the power to change it all. I don't have the power. You don't have the power. Yes, we need to stand for something, and I'm not saying to not be informed. But what I do know about God is that God's voice is love. His voice is power. His voice is peace. God's voice is wisdom. God's voice is joy. It's all of those things. And like that quote, I want to repeat it. If you aren't willing to listen to everything God has to say, you eventually won't hear anything he has to say. You know, we can't just look at it and go, well, I have the right to do this, or why aren't we meeting in the church building? Because there's things out of our control. But the power of God is not contained. It will not be contained. It cannot. If your life is maybe an off key just a little bit, or you're finding yourself anxious or tense or angry, maybe evaluate, are you listening and hearing God's voice? It's an important question. If you want to hear his comforting voice of peace, we also have to hear his voice of conviction. We all have a part. We all have a voice. But what is it we're speaking to? Is it what God's about? Or is it our own agenda, our own thoughts, our own ideas or opinions? I want to have God's words become my words. I want to speak peace. I want to speak love. I want to speak with clarity. I had a conversation this past week with somebody, and they were really worked up and tense and angry with our governor, angry with the state of our nation, how people are being treated. And I said, okay, I get it. I'm not okay with it either. But my question is, have you spent as much time seeking God and praying and leaning into God as you have watching the news, listening to things on social media, hearing other people's opinions? If you've spent that much time and that much energy leaning into God, then I might listen to what you have to say. But if you're just spouting off without having God's voice behind it, it's just a clanging cymbal, and I'm not interested. So I would encourage you, whose voice are you listening to? What are you hearing? Stop and drown out all the other noise, the noise that is deafening God's voice. Focus on that. Lean into that. Ask God for wisdom and peace that only He can give. Because that's the only answer really that any of us have during these times. And we have months ahead of campaigning and elections and COVID and rioting. There are so many big issues confronting us. I do not want to be processing it and dealing with it apart from God's voice. Because God has the power to bring peace, to bring healing, and to bring about change. So friends, I encourage you, evaluate what voice is the primary voice you're listening to. Have a great day. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe or comment below. We would love to pray for you and connect with you. And we're still doing those YouVersion Bible studies. And so I would encourage you to join one of those or do one on your own. Stay encouraged, lean in, and listen for God's voice. I love you, friends. Have a great day.